Hi guys, welcome back to Last Week on the Internet. I know it's been such a long time and I want to give reasons for it, but you know what? Let's just get right back into it. Things happen, shit happens, but we promise to be consistent this time. And just so you know, new videos of Last Week on the Internet will be dropping every Monday. So set a reminder for 8 a.m. every Monday so that you don't miss a thing. But let me do the introduction properly. Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Pazqal Eriq, and welcome to a brand new episode of Last Week on the Internet, a session where we dissect and unpack everything that happened on Blue Ivy's internet. Let's go. So we're starting off with some good news that caused a lot of mixed reactions on the internet, and rightfully so, and we will get into it. The 48 children and teachers that were kidnapped in Oyo State almost 2 months ago have been rescued. Even though it did take the government nearly 2 weeks to respond to this issue after it happened, 2 days ago, the news of their release dropped with subsequent development explaining that they are currently undergoing checkups before they are released to their families. I want to start off with, there is no congratulations, no thank you that is going to any government, any authority that did anything in this case. Those kids and teachers were nearly 2 months in captivity. It is safe to say that a lot of us already lost hope of seeing them again, but this is great relieving news, and if you're relieved, I don't think that you should feel any guilt whatsoever. However, I think it's very scary and quite disappointing that the government took this long to rescue these people. Yes, they have been rescued, but that also does not certify that we are safe in this country. Because even after they were kidnapped and held in captivity, more people were kidnapped in places around the country. More attacks have happened since then, and many that did not even get reported on. So no, this is not a victory to commend the government about. It is more grounds for questioning. There were also a couple of people that came out to say the whole scenario was not looking straightforward. They said from the kidnapping to the rescue to the release, everything looked staged. And I find it so funny that I have to remind people that we live in Nigeria. You cannot live in such a, for a lack of better words, dystopian society and expect anything to be straightforward, or anything to make sense. Nothing makes sense in this economy. Nothing makes sense in this climate. From the government to the people to the things that are happening, there is no sense. If we lived in a properly thinking society, there is so much more that we would have issues with. And we should. We should be headed towards there. And you know how we'll get there? By letting go of that political apathy that you feel. Get your PVCs, pay attention to the news and the happenings in the country, speak up when it's necessary, have opinions on topics that you should have opinions on, and share those opinions because it might convince someone to do better. But most importantly, be open to learning. One thing that I've noticed when it comes to people that pay attention to a lot of political news is that once they've held an ideology, they are not open to thinking, to exploring, to being presented with new thoughts. And I want you to know that a brain that isn't thinking is a stupid brain that leads to no progress. And while we are on the topic of progress, it is only in this country that we can both be regressing and probably progressing, depending on how you look at it. In the same country where a governor is fulfilling his promise of grants to several business owners, a grant of 1 million each to support their businesses and grow, is the same country where the First Lady is coming out to defend her statements that were uttered about 2 weeks ago when she was talking about the grant that she was giving to several women amounting to almost 500 million. But if you calculate it, each woman got about 50,000 naira. With the aim of this grant being to help them start petty trading and small businesses such as frying akara and selling kuli. And because of the absurdity of that statement, many Nigerians took to the internet to speak out. From the angry statements to the jokes made that got to the hearing of the First Lady, which made her come out again to indirectly defend that statement. While speaking, she mentioned how the troubles of this country are quite large and too big for the government alone to handle. So she's calling on musical artists and creatives in general to pull their own weight by creating NGOs and forums that give grants to the citizens. Giving an example of how a man started Akara business after he couldn't find a job after graduating, and she deciding to support him anonymously to this point where he now has over 12 employees under his belt. And I don't know what the aim of that story that she gave was, but if it was not rage bait, I would be so confused. Because at this point, it's looking like we're trying to see what statement gets Nigerians to that point of pushing back. From the story that she gave, the reason the man started the Akara business was because of the lack of jobs, which is one of the things that people elected the people in power right now to handle. You should be creating jobs. You giving people a grant of 50,000 naira each to go and start petty trading is not creating jobs. It is trying to put a temporary solution on an ongoing problem. There is high poverty in the land. Some people do not remember the last time they had a 3 square meal. Some people cannot even afford 1 meal a day. How much would they make from selling akara and kuli. In properly working countries, people are being given jobs, organizations are being set up, industries are being developed, companies are being managed to the point of being able to employ more. But what we are getting is, why don't you just start Akara business or sell kuli? It begs the question, do your government take us seriously? That is my question. The Independent National Electoral Commission has extended the deadline for PVC registration, also introducing the possibilities of completing the entire registration online. Though this is not currently active yet on the platform, while I was doing some research, I saw in someone's comment section about how we should give it a few days for it to reflect. Good and fine. But I hope those few days that it will take for it to reflect will be accounted for and extended more so that people can actually do what they need to do. That's one. Two, as someone who this is his first registration and does not have his PVCs, and as someone who went to the INEC office quite recently, like last week, to complete the biometric captures, you can't tell me that we are serious in this country. We had years to prepare for this registration. We had years to prepare for this election that is next year, I think January or February. And it is just now that they are implementing a self-service where you can be able to complete the registration all the way through by yourself at home. You go to the offices, they are packed, crowded, to the point where they have to start giving the people that come numbers, and then when it gets to a particular point, they're like, that is all the people that we can service for today. And then those people that are even giving numbers don't even have the surety that they're going to get their PVCs or finish their registration. Why? There's either the issues of people not being on seats or servers being down, and so on and so on. I was right in front of the INEC office when a security guard came out to tell someone, and I overheard him in Hausa talking about how they don't feel like anybody will be registered today because the servers are down, but nobody has communicated this to people. People are standing under the hot sun because they actually want to exercise their political rights. This is what we are being met with. In an ideal country, you should be able to get your PVCs just as easily as you get your ATM card. It shouldn't have to be such a long process. And I know it's possible. The question is, why are we not making it that possible? Why are they not making it that possible for us? These are the questions that we should be asking. Moving on to the last news that I have for today, which is a foreign news. And this is about Nolan Wells' death. A black 18-year-old boy who went on a trip with friends. Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old black boy that went on a trip on the 4th of July with his friends to an island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast and never returned. Mind you, him being black is very important to this story. Why? Because all the friends that he went with were white. 2 days later, after he was declared missing, he turned up dead. What could have happened, you might be asking? Well, all the stories are not making sense. Because according to the friends that he went on this trip with, they claimed that when they got to the island, he gave them his phone and went after a girl to talk to her. And that was the last they saw of him until they found his dead body. The girl in question was asked about her interaction with him, and she claims that it was such a short interaction, and then after it, he left back to his friends. Only for these friends to come back, unfollow him on social media, all three of them, deactivate their accounts, and had their parents get their lawyers involved in the case. Something smells fishy, and it is not the Mississippi River. First question, what teenager do you know says, take my phone, go with it, I don't need it right now? Do you know how inseparable a teenager is with their phone? But he just so happened to have given it to them, and they decided to leave him there on an island where they did not know anybody. Mind you, he that was invited did not come back with you people, but y'all were calm. If this was all a coincidence, how come they unfollowed him on social media? How come they deactivated their accounts? And how come they are getting lawyers involved? Because they know there is a case ahead of them. And there will be a lot of questions to be answered. But I don't want to weigh in on what should happen to them because I am very drastic. I wish nothing but death on people like that, because this is not the first time a black person within a friend group of white people has gone missing or dead. So why is this a common occurrence? And I think the craziest part of this entire story are the audience's reactions. Because on one hand, we have people saying, okay, this story is not making any sense, dots are not connecting. And then we have other people saying, well, teenagers will be teenagers. Teenagers will not be teenagers. This is not just how people end up dead. As someone going on a trip with you people are responsible for him. And vice versa. If it was, let's forget race for a moment. Let's forget he was black for a moment. If it was a white person that was with them, this news would have been different. They would not have left that island without him. And even if he ended up dead, there would have definitely been an explanation for it. But now this boy's family, in addition to mourning him, have to figure out what exactly happened to their son, with none of the people that he went on this trip with speaking up. I don't want to say if it barks like a dog and it walks like a dog, then it's probably a dog. But when something is obvious, let's stop acting foolish and stupid. The police are trying to say it's suicide, but the parents are not letting up. And honestly, they shouldn't, because how likely would a teenager commit suicide on a trip, on an enjoyable trip with friends? If 1 + 1 is 2 and 2 + 2 is 4, what the fuck is that? But anyway, guys, that's all we have today on Last Week on the Internet. Let me know your thoughts on every single piece of information and news that was relayed here. I would love to hear them. Drop them in the comment section below. Remember to hit that subscribe button and share this to a person who would love it. And heads up that videos would always be dropping for Last Week on the Internet on Mondays. So turn on my post notification and keep your eyes locked in on this channel. Check out my other videos too, okay? But until next week, see y'all.